Hey, welcome back to the Big Grant Show. Thank you for joining me. This, as you see, is Lindsey Graham, also known as Lady G, depending on what circles you find yourself in. But that's another story, right? Today he lost basically his appeal to the Supreme Court, trying to block his subpoena to testify at a grand jury in Georgia, which is interesting because the Republican-controlled Supreme Court has done a lot of Trump friends' help, right? They've been helping them out with a lot of things. Like just today, the Supreme Court ruled that Donald Trump doesn't have to turn over his tax returns to a committee in the U.S. House, at least not for 10 days, 10 more days. Interesting how this is being blocked just mere days before an election, and to the point that it won't have any effect, right? We won't be able to see his lies and who's been actually funding him all these years until after the election. The thing is, though, this is a temporary stay, right? It's a temporary stay, but here's the problem. In the end of the day, the Supreme Court's not going to rule against Donald Trump here, I don't think. Now, they say they're going to, figure it out over the next 10 days. They want a response from everybody the people they're talking to in regards to this investigation. Now, the Democrats have been wanting these tax returns for a number of reasons for a number of years now, since at least 2019. When, especially during the idea of collusion with Russia on the 2016 election. Now, sure, they found nothing to tie Donald Trump to any kind of collusion. Although there were people within his campaign who did directly collude with the Russians. Whether Donald Trump knew about it or not, it did happen. We just have no proof of whether or not Trump did or did not involve himself. But the thing is, every president before him, at least of my lifetime, have turned over their tax returns. In fact, it's been a yearly thing that presidents do until Donald Trump. And all of a sudden, Donald Trump wanted to be real secretive about it. You're not secretive about stuff if you're not doing something wrong. That's just how it goes. That's been my experience in life. Right? If somebody is sneaking around, hiding stuff, they're probably not doing something that they're supposed to be doing. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think you hide stuff when you're innocent, right? But Lindsey Graham, surprisingly, did not get this treatment from the Supreme Court, which is relatively interesting because this pertains to Trump trying to persuade the Georgia governor and the Secretary of State of Georgia to find 11,000 votes to give him Georgia so he would win the election. That's what that was about, right? That's what this whole thing is. But surprisingly, the Supreme Court has allowed for this to continue, for him to go sit for this grand jury and testify. And I think it's only proper. If you say you did nothing wrong, why are y'all scared to testify? Now, we all know what's going to happen. We all know at the end of the day, he's just going to go down there to Georgia, or he'll do it via Zoom or whatever, and he'll plead the fifth on every question. Because clearly, he's in bed with Trump, and I don't mean that in a sexual manner, but he's a Trumper. His best friend, John McCain, I think was his soul, his guiding light as it were. John McCain was a never Trumper. John McCain would have never supported Donald Trump directly. And Lindsey Graham was very clear that he didn't support Trump at all. And then all of a sudden, John McCain passed away. And all of a sudden, Lindsey Graham just couldn't get his head out of Donald Trump's ass. It's been that way since literally a week after John McCain passed away. What it is Lindsey Graham is no better than any other Trumper. He attacks the LGBTQ community even though it is clear he is a part of it. It is clear that he tried to throw our democracy, our republic, away. Lindsey Graham is just as much to blame as Donald Trump for that. And so are every other Republican who allowed him to do the things he did with no repercussions. Because there is one thing that I support more than anything else, and that's our republic. This man stood by and supported the insurrectionists that attacked our republic on January 6, 2021. And he's continued to support them. And then we find out that it's possible, they have evidence to show that he was also pushing the state officials in Georgia to fraudulently find votes to make Trump president for a second term. But I have a dire warning for my Democratic friends out there, my liberal leaning and far left friends. A week from today, we have our midterms. And I am serious when I say I do not believe the Democrats are going to hold on to Congress. Unfortunately, it appears that the anger over Roe v. Wade has faded, been replaced with fears of inflation and panic caused by things like people like Tucker Carlson on Fox News. Get out there and vote on Tuesday. If you have early voting and you're not going to have time to go vote next Tuesday, go do it this week. If you have an absentee ballot that has to be turned in by the day of the election, drive it to your local election board or whatever your state has set up for you to do. Be sure you get those votes out. Show up in numbers too big for them to use misinformation. Because if we don't show up next Tuesday, if we stay home, fascists like Lindsey Graham and Donald Trump will take over this country. And that's not a term I use loosely. Okay? I don't use the term fascist loosely. Because it is reserved for a select few people. Hateful people that want to dictate to us how we're allowed to live, how we're allowed to be. Just like Ron DeSantis in the fascists down in Florida, who just recently said that trans kids have to all detransition through the entire state of Florida. No puberty blockers, no nothing. That'll be another video this week, by the way. But get out there and vote. Just vote. I don't care what you have to do to get your vote in. But if you support our republic, if you support the LGBTQ community, if you support funding children's lunches, if you support making sure kids are fed and clothed and educated, if you believe everybody deserves the same rights, if you believe women should have bodily autonomy, if you believe women should be able to control their own destiny, get out there and vote. If you believe women should be able to have access to birth control and abortion services as they need, as their doctors suggest, then get out there and vote and support them. And lastly, if you say you support a loved one who is part of the LGBTQ plus community, especially if they are a trans youth, get out there and vote blue. Because the Republicans don't care about your kid. If you're part of the LGBTQ community, the Republicans don't care about you. Remember, Texas just kicked the Texas log cabin Republicans out just last year. The GOP will never choose you. If you have an LGBTQ youth, if you're LGBTQ, they don't care about you. The GOP could care less. If you're not cisgender, white, and male, the GOP doesn't care about you. The GOP would assume you die. They believe women should be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen doing nothing else but making babies and making dinner. You and I both know that is not all women are supposed to be for. Women should be able to make a decision on when they're going to have a baby without a man telling them whether or not they can or cannot. And yes, this pisses me off. This is a topic that I am very, very pissed off about. Not because it affects me directly as a trans woman, but abortion rights and bodily autonomy for women is important to me because I have a wife who is supporting me through my transition and supporting me for years with my disability. But heaven forbid she gets pregnant and then has a miscarriage and then has to die because she's not allowed to have the remains removed. Because we live in a state that doesn't allow abortion. To the point that pretty much all abortion clinics closed and moved out of state. Oklahoma de facto has a ban, an outright ban on abortion. All abortion. No excuses for how it happened. So that's a lot to think about. And I know a lot of you are worried about the economy. The economy is not as important as the future of our republic. Inflation will come down. The economy is rocking and rolling. We're under 4% unemployment. There was a point in time when, I guess it was about 2006, 2007, before the Great Recession happened, where I was hearing from the professionals that 6% unemployment was just normal. And that you would probably never see America consistently below 6%. But here we are below 4. Started under Trump. Of course, then unemployment ballooned to 10% during COVID. But unemployment is now back under 4%. It's like 3.8%. I think under Trump it got down to 3.4%. But the thing is, that's not because of a president. That's because of you, the American people. After the Great Recession, it took years to get that back, right? But we started getting it back under Obama. And there was a huge spike of employment in the last 2 years of the Obama presidency that continued into Trump's years. And Trump, for his part, did a good job on allowing that to keep going, even though I don't think presidents directly control any of that. But, and then of course we had COVID. Completely mishandled by our government, top to bottom. Republicans, Democrats, everybody botched it at the beginning. Even myself, I got it wrong. The first few weeks, I didn't think it was really going to be a thing. I didn't think it was going to take over the country like it did. But you know what? When the health official said stay home for 2 weeks, my wife and I stayed home for 2 weeks. If everybody in America had done that, COVID wouldn't have been a thing. There would have been no extended lockdowns. There would have been no need for even the vaccine. It just would have gone away. Because COVID-19 is not a whole lot different than previous SARS outbreaks, right? Kills a lot of people. But in nations where they lock it down for a little while, 2 weeks to a month, it tends to fade. Problem is, China did not get a grasp on it, and then Trump wanted to deny it even after it became a big thing. But I digress. The fact is, inflation is here, and is it going to go away right away? No. But no change in political control of the country is going to change inflation. Later this week, I will put out a list. I'll go through a list of everything the GOP wants to cut. Everything the GOP wants to get rid of if they take control of Congress this fall. Please get out there and vote. Vote vote blue, please. Please vote blue. That's the last thing I'm going to say right now. Have a good day. I'll see you down the road.